Hello. Guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi. My name is Emma, and today we're going to be talking about my weight gain and weight loss story. It's going to be a story that has spanned the last decade, I would say. Long story short is that when I went to America to go to college, in my first year abroad, I put on 15 kilos, which is about 35 pounds, I want to say. Between freshman year and senior year, I had put on a total of 23 kilograms. The weight has kind of dropped off over the last couple of years since I've graduated and returned back to Vietnam. And this question came about after one of my classmates at the tailoring academy asked me how I managed to lose the weight and keep it off. So if we went back to my childhood days to baby Emma, I was a kid that ate really well. I remember my mom telling me that I would basically just eat anything and everything that was put in front of me. No ifs, ands, or buts. And then when I was 4 or 5, I had an asthma attack. And for some reason after that, I became very skinny. And this was the case all the way up until the end of high school. And I never paid much attention to my weight at all. Really, I had a very blissful childhood that my parents were able to create for me. I had always played sport all throughout school, and PE was easily one of my favorite subjects growing up without fail. It wasn't until about 9th or 10th grade where I became aware of exercising intentionally for the first time. And this was because our school had a field trip, 3-day, 2-night excursion coming up. And I thought, it'd be a good idea to work on my stamina, work on my strength so that I could perform this hike well. And that was the first time I ever explored the realm of fitness on YouTube. Yeah, who knew it would become something that I would have to think about very often for the next decade of my life. The excursion came and went. And then the new year came along. And within the 1 month of New Year, I ate to my heart's desire, as I always do. And for some reason, with my metabolism that year, I don't know if it has anything to do with that particular stage of puberty or not. But basically, I ate as I always did every other single year. But for some reason, this year in that 1 month, I was able to put on 5 kilograms, which was a shock to me because I had never gained weight that easily before. So I was even more determined to lose the weight. I had grown up being told that, oh my God, you're so slim, you're so athletic, you should become a model, you should run for pageants and whatnot. And I think part of me was afraid to lose that type of validation. Anyways, Vietnamese food is like pretty healthy as is. Not to mention that I was in high school. I wasn't making any money of my own. So it's not like I could buy lots of junk food and go out and all that stuff. I would have to ask my parents for money, right? So that kind of limited the amount of junk consumption that I was eating. So my weight was pretty much still in check. My height, for reference, is 5'8", and by the end of high school, age 16, I was weighing around 57 kilograms. I do remember even at this point, so this was about like 2.5 years after the excursion thing, I was already getting a little bit more obsessive with training in my room, doing crunches and weighing myself every day. And I don't think my parents were aware of it at all. Age 16, I finished high school. I'm off to college. I've moved to the United States, to Philadelphia, to pursue my bachelor's degree. And it was the first time I had really lived away from my family. My family is used to moving around a lot. I've lived in other countries as a child as well. So I was like, you know what, this is probably going to be more of the same. Nothing too new. But boy, was I wrong. Because I lived in the dorms, I was on a meal plan for the entirety of my freshman year of uni. And I remember doing orientation, which is like the first week before school even starts. I was eating, without fail, 12 chocolate chip cookies, about yay big. 12 chocolate chip cookies every single day. So that came down to 4 cookies each meal, 2 on the way into the cafeteria, 2 on the way out. And I just ate to my heart's content because that's all I had ever known. And so I kind of carried that mindset on into college. I was still into sports, and this was the first time in my life I really had access to a rock climbing wall, which is actually a sport that I really enjoyed. So I climbed a lot that first semester of college. My best friend was into powerlifting, so I joined her in the gym and learned a little bit of powerlifting as well. But my love was filled with rock climbing. And then at the end of the semester, I noticed that my t-shirts were getting kind of tight around my bicep area. At first, I thought that I had like Emma had worked out so much, she has climbed so much, she's gotten so swole, and that's why her shirts aren't fitting anymore. But when I hopped into the scale at the end of that first semester, I realized I had put on like 7 or 8 kilograms. So 15 pounds. And they say like you put on 15 pounds for the entirety of the first year of college. But I had put on that 15 pounds not even 3 months into moving to America. By Christmas, I had put on a grand total of 10 kilograms. By the end of the first year, 15 kilograms. Even though I really, really tried to watch my food intake and exercise more, but for some reason, I kept on yo-yoing and I never really managed to lose the weight permanently. But honestly, gaining the weight in America was better than gaining the weight in Vietnam because if you're familiar with Asian beauty standards, specifically East Asian, Southeast Asian, you know that the norm is to be quite slim, and it's not often that you see people really outside that range. And if you are, it's a little bit harsher for you. But in America, even though I had seen America on film, on telly before coming, that was probably my first culture shock, was seeing people of all different shapes and sizes, like quite literally, colors, shapes, and sizes. I feel like that made the weight gain more accepted, if you will. Next few years play out quite the same. I try to watch what I eat. I try to exercise more, and I'd be on that wagon for a couple months, and then I'd fall off. So I'd be yo-yo dieting. It was not a great place to be. And I remember thinking about food a lot. At first, I thought it was a matter of discipline, that I had a discipline problem, which was also confusing to me because, throughout my childhood, throughout my adolescence, I've always been a person with a lot of discipline. Wake up on time, go to school on time, finish my homework on time. If there were any responsibilities that were given to me, I'd be able to complete them. Like, I had discipline down. But where the heck did it go when it came to eating and food and exercise? And I held onto that mindset for the better part of the next 4 to 5 years, I would say. I graduated in May 2020, which is like smack in the middle of the pandemic, and I was stuck in my apartment for the better part of 2 months. So my roommate and I, we just cooked a lot and held a lot of potlucks. And I think it was the stress of graduating and also being in the pandemic, being stuck in my apartment. I put on the 5 or 8 kilograms, and this put me at the grand total between freshman year and senior year was plus 23.
Now we can practice.
I remember at that point, I felt very uncomfortable in my own skin. You know when you're wearing leggings and it's like so tight on your body, but then you're actually wearing a size too small. But then it's not just leggings, it's like entirely all over your body. And that's basically how I felt at that weight. It wasn't even just the poor body image that I had. It was also the feeling of like I wanted to take this layer of clothes off, but that layer was actually just my skin. At the time, I had no idea how I was going to solve that issue. In retrospect, the weight gain itself was just the symptom. And over the past like 3 or 4 years of college, I had only been treating the symptom by managing what I ate, working out. Even though I say I managed what I eat, basically I would eat really healthily at meals, but then I would snack like a ton outside of my meals. But if we looked at the root cause of it all, probably have to be stress. Even though I had been abroad before and I was like, you know what, I'm used to being abroad, it should be fine. I actually had a decent amount of culture shock moving to America from Vietnam. A big part of it was like communication culture shock. People in Vietnam interact a little bit differently than people in America. It was also the transition from high school to college. Like in high school, you have 6 to 8 periods throughout the day, which are all laid out in a certain block. You finish at 3 or 4 p.m. and then you're done. You're home and then you have the entire evening to yourself to do whatever the heck you want to do. But in college, the timetables are split out a little bit more throughout the day. You have classes in the mornings, sometimes you have classes in the evenings, and then you have just weird spaces in between your classes. And I had a hard time figuring out how to manage those time windows effectively. Making friends was a little bit difficult the first semester, but then I had a part-time job all throughout of my time in America. So I was able to make a lot of friends through there, and my social life improved little by little. Thankfully, my social life was pretty much smooth sailing, and it got better and better throughout my 4 years there. It was also the stress of balancing full-time school, so 40 hours with 20 hours of a part-time job every single semester, basically, and then landing internships every single summer. And then once you graduate, now you have the pressure of looking for a job, right? But basically, when I wrapped up uni and went back to Vietnam, my mom was very adamant about the fact that I shouldn't look for a job right away. She said that she could see that I had put on a lot of stress throughout my 4 years away from home. And she kind of drew the analogy of a pressure cooker. Because I had so much pressure on myself, from myself, I needed time to decompress and not just put more pressure on myself immediately, because that would just result in other types of health problems down the line. I took my mom's advice, tried to not look for work, which was pretty easy given that it was the beginning of the pandemic and it wasn't that easy to land a job anyways. I did tutor English, but I was teaching very few lessons at the time. Within the first year and a half, I had lost about 8 kilograms down to 72 kilograms, and I was just kind of hovering there for a while. So that was mainly just managing my stress, which then would adjust my eating habits, because I've heard theories before that animals, when they're stressed, what they really want to do is use their claws to claw something or use their jaws to chew and release stress through these muscles. Which made a lot of sense, seeing that in America, I spent a lot of my time rock climbing or using my hands, my claws, if you will. And the other part of the time would be snacking a lot, so using my jaws. And when I went back to Vietnam, I think the food was pretty healthy by default. We have a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables in our diet. The portion sizes were also a bit more manageable, and slowly the weight kind of dropped off. I've heard a lot of people say that when you go to the gym and you work out, you release a lot of good hormones, happy hormones that's supposed to make you feel incredible. But for some reason, when I'm weightlifting, I don't feel any joy. Even after I'm done, I only feel relief, as if I've ticked off something from my to-do list that I had to do that specific day. But I gave it another shot when I came back to Vietnam. It has worked for a lot of people. Maybe it will work for me. Maybe it's still a discipline problem. So I gave it my all again at the gym, but I freaking hated it. I know that the gym is a community of a lot of supportive people. My friends are a testament to that, but it's not for me. I was trying other types of movement. Yoga a little bit. Didn't stick to it much. Didn't love it. And then I tried Pilates, the old school one where you're just using your body weight with no equipment. It's just you and a yoga mat. And I loved the fact that I could do it in my room. Believe it or not, body weight workouts, specifically Pilates, that is like incorporated with yoga, became my favorite form of movement. Because when I think about weightlifting, I think it brings me a lot of stress, and even though I'm technically working out, I'm releasing a lot of stress hormones as I'm doing it, which would probably counter the fact that I'm working out to begin with, because the stress hormones is probably what's making me hold on to the weight and altering my eating habits so much in the first place. This is about 2022. I'm 22 years old. I had tried some detox programs where you drink juices, and although I didn't lose any weight after that detox program, it shifted my mindset, the way I approached my health, the way I approached viewing myself. I was not treating my body with love and care and respect, but I was really harsh on myself. You know, people say that if you want to get into the best shape that is optimal for you, it has to be a lifestyle change. And at first I thought, yeah, I could work out and make it my lifestyle, but if I were being completely honest, I was not enjoying weightlifting. So in no way was that going to ever become a sustainable lifestyle. I didn't get it until I got it. In terms of exercise, it had to be some type of movement that I genuinely enjoyed. At that stage, it was body weight exercises, and that may or may not change in the future. And if it does, I will listen to my body, try something new, change it when I need to. Food-wise, I had to find the foods that brought me joy. Just dieting itself did not work for me, really. Even with the restrictive mindset to begin with, even if I tell myself that I'm going to start dieting tomorrow, from today, I actually will start binge eating as if I need to fuel up before I run into a scarcity of food the next week. Yeah, when I started approaching myself with more love, I kind of talked to myself the same way I would talk to a best friend. I would love myself the same way I would love my best friend, which is with a lot of care and compassion. I found that it was much easier to lead the lifestyle that I genuinely enjoyed with light exercise, fresh food, home cooked meals. Yeah, so the weight slowly dropped off close to what it is right now. And then what kind of sealed the deal was actually something that I implemented earlier this year. Basically, my mom had been inspired by a monk who only ate one meal a day, and he fasted the rest of the day, and he would walk for miles and miles every single day, which kind of proved the point that the body doesn't actually need food in the capacity that we think it does, or we've been told that it does. And this is not to say that we should eat less. It's just to say that the way our energy functions and the amount of food that we take in may not be as connected as we think it is. I mean, there have been countless monks that have gone into caves to meditate with barely any sustenance, and they still come out fine a long time later. So that is just to prove the point that the body can function completely well with or without the intake of food. And if you do intake food or water, it is more so for enjoyment and less so because of necessity. And so my mom was inspired by this monk, and she did her own little experiment on herself of only eating a meal a day. And at first she did feel a little bit tired. I think it's still like the underlying belief that we need so much food to sustain ourselves energetically. But then slowly but surely she got adjusted to that lifestyle, and her energy levels became quite stable. She would eat one meal at lunch, and the lunch could draw out for about 2 hours. And she would basically eat anything and everything to her heart's desire. She didn't feel restriction. And after I observed her practicing this lifestyle for a couple months, I was like, you know what? My mom's still alive and well. She's actually looking healthier than she did before. She's looking more lively with more energy than she did before. Then why don't I give it a shot? I was eating 3 meals at this point, and I decided that instead of cutting out breakfast, I would give up dinner first because I am an oat fanatic. I wake up and I look forward to eating oats in the morning, if you get what I mean. So no way on earth was I going to give that up. So I was eating oats in the morning and then a big ass lunch, whatever the heck I wanted. And on days that I felt hunger in the evening, I would have a light snack. These last 4 months, I had been attending Tailoring Academy. Class starts at 8. At first, I woke up at like 6:30 so that I would have time to cook my oats. But as the fatigue of going to school consistently started to set in, I decided that I valued my sleep more than oats. I said farewell to the oats, and so I would just wake up and go to school and focus for 4 hours at the academy from 8 to 12. Go home for lunch, have a big ass lunch, and then have a light snack in the afternoon. And I realized that not only did I have more time to sleep, there was no issue with my energy levels at all. I could focus really well for the 4 hours at school. This exercise of fasting is not merely just about food. It's more so about challenging our beliefs that we need certain things, certain criteria to survive. Like, do I need as much water as I think I do? Do I need as much food as I think I do? What are my other limiting beliefs about myself beyond the physical? Like about what I'm capable of, the talents that I could extract within myself. And knowing that my body was entirely capable of running life through itself, I think it also helped me cultivate more belief in my own abilities within this time period than specific to sewing and designing clothes, or if there were things that I had never done before, like fashion illustration. I now also had more belief in myself that I could do it. These last couple of months being so busy with school, I have barely had time to do any exercise at all. I see food as enjoyment now, so I do not restrict myself. Lunch usually looks like 1 or 2 bowls of rice, vegetables, and some meat, a thick baguette, lots of butter, and I basically eat anything and everything to my heart's desire. If we have dinner parties, if I go out with friends, I enjoy it to the full extent. I never thought that I would be able to heal my relationship with food in this particular way. Because in the depths of it, when I was in uni in America, I really was skeptical if I would ever not have to think about food negatively. Like, would I ever escape that? It's only recent, as of these last couple months, I've literally quite genuinely been able to enjoy food to the maximal extent. And my body has been able to stay in shape. I've been able to retain some muscle from God knows when. People have told me that I look like I had toned up. Even though I hadn't been exercising, the only form of movement I've had within the last couple months is basically walking from my sewing machine over to my ironing board and then back to my sewing machine. So not that much really. Yeah, I trust my hunger signals now. I trust what I enjoy and don't enjoy eating. I feel free. And I never thought that I would reach a day where I would attain this freedom with food again. I actually have only weighed myself like once within the last year and a half. When we renovated our home, my mom decided to get rid of the scale, and we've just haven't gotten one again. And I only weighed myself like the other day for the sake of this video. And yeah, this is where I am hovering at right now. Going back to the stress factors and that being the culprit of weight fluctuations. When I started this sewing academy, we had to take our measurements, right? Because we're tailoring clothes to our bodies. For some reason, my friend, when she sewed herself a skirt, it was way too big for her, which we were all confused at because this is tailoring where we've taken our own measurements. How could the skirt be bigger than what she is? Within just the first month of going to tailoring school, she had dropped a lot of weight. She had dropped, I think, like a solid 4 to 5 inches off of her waist. And the funny thing is, all of us collectively had been eating much more than before the program started. Normally, she would only eat about half a bowl of rice at a meal, but then, after 4 hours of pure concentration in class, you get hungry because your brain runs off of that stuff. She'd go home, have a meal, 2 whole bowls of rice, lots of food, and somehow she still managed to lose weight. So it goes back to my theory of do what you enjoy doing. If you try a diet out, a way of exercise out, and you don't feel joy after giving it a solid chance, I would highly encourage you to switch to something else, because you will find something that you really enjoy that will be sustainable for you, which will be the lifestyle change that you're looking for. Because at the end of the day, if you do something that brings you a lot of stress and you're thinking about doing it for the rest of your life, think about the cumulative stress that you put on yourself, all the stressful hormones that comes with that, and what that does to your body, to your mind, to your soul. I think my phone is not dying, but my leg is kind of dying. I can't feel it anymore. But basically, that is my weight gain and weight loss story. I feel very comfortable in my own skin. Learning about fashion and tailoring has also improved my confidence a lot in the colors that look good on me, in the silhouettes that look good on me. And I feel like I'm able to express myself better and challenge my creativity. And I think all of that has also helped to put me in a better state altogether. I incorporate movement in my life when I can. I eat what I want. I feel like I'm in a really good spot. Every now and again, maybe will have like a twinge of negative body image, but barely at all these days. I hope this story has been able to give you some insight into the fact that each person will find a different way of building a positive relationship with themselves. I hope it can provide you with some solace if you're also looking to get into better shape, to feel your best, to function your best. At the end of the day, our body is our vehicle to experience this life, and you gotta take good care of your vehicle. That's all I have for today. If you have any other questions, I'm open to discussion down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!